So I'm Daniel Medina. This is a reflection of my time in the CS program. Let's start with the classwork here. So to start, I would say the most useful class was 2114. That class really laid down the fundamentals for everything that I would be learning going forward. I know you learn a lot of that stuff in 1114, but you don't really do real stuff until 2114. And in general, I think like everything beyond that is like more of the same stuff, but a lot more like if statements, for loops, basic data structures, how to work with methods and object-oriented programming and just programming in general. It's all the same stuff afterwards, except more of it, if you understand. Where if instead of five if statements and for loops, you do 100, and it's just more complex, logic and whatnot. I would say the class that made me a real deal programming was 3114. That was a class where I really had to think carefully about what I was doing and how to wrap my head around how to take some of these more difficult concepts like a quad tree, using recursion and whatnot, and turn it into programming. And after that, I would say it was much easier to wrap my head around whatever it was I was doing because I had operated on such a high level, I think, in 3114. And in general, I think the classwork was very difficult, but it was rewarding. If I spent hours there sitting in the CS lounge suffering, it didn't really matter as soon as I finished it or solved my issue because just this orgasmic sense of relief would wash over me. And in general, I think the program had a good focus on practical knowledge and experience over theoretical stuff. I guess it's because we're incorporated into the College of Engineering that we're like this, and this also makes sense for what we're going to be doing in the industry because I've taken stuff at other schools and it's much more focused on theory and stuff that's easy to teach and learn, but or straightforward to learn and teach, but I don't know, it doesn't really translate to you being a great programmer or anything like that. Um, as far as reflection and what I would probably tell myself when I was younger, go to the CS Lounge. That place is so useful. You don't even have to be doing work there. If you're making friends, you're just learning and absorbing all the stuff and the knowledge that is being spewed by people around you. And I'm helping people. People are helping me. I would say all of my coursework was made immensely easier by being able to go to some place where everyone else was doing what I was doing to some extent, and being able to seek help at a moment's notice because the workflow, I would say, of programming is different from other programs, other majors and stuff. Programming as a form of studying is very important. This is a field in which you learn by doing, not so much by memorizing or studying. And so, you don't program with everything you learn. So you should just, if you learn something in class or whatnot, you don't program with it. Go home and, as an exercise, program something with it, and that'll be how you learn it. That's the best way to learn. And school is the most important thing. Don't focus on partying. Don't focus on girls. I made that mistake and got into a bunch of dysfunctional, toxic relationships that distracted me from what I was there for. Plus, this is like a I don't know. This place is really expensive, man. You can't be wasting your time. Um, I would say as a suggestion, maybe restructure the 1114 class a bit. There was, all the Giroux stuff working in maps and focus on all this other stuff. It felt like it got in the way of actually understanding what you were doing in a programmatic sense, and it ended up making talking about these things harder because someone would come to me for help, or I would go to help someone else, and they would be like, "I'm trying to get this Giroux to move, and I'm trying to," and they're not even speaking in terms of programming, and so I gotta completely reorient the context in which they speak. And I took AP Computer Science, and I don't know, I took 1114 as well, and I found it challenging in a way that was unnecessary and not helpful. I didn't really get it. I mean, it was an easy enough course. I felt like there was too much in the way, and in the attempts to make it tangible and understandable, that it did the opposite. I think those one credit classes are super underrated. with each one credit class, you learn a new technology, and that's really important in the industry because they kind of expect you to know all this different stuff. If you take like 3 of those a semester, and you do that for like 2 semesters, that's like 6 different technologies or languages you learned. And that's really good. That's really good on your resume. I wish I wish you guys place more focus on those. Or I would like you guys to place more focus on those and to I wish I knew about that stuff earlier. It wasn't until like my senior year that I found out, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. I wish I had taken more of these. In the future, I'm going straight to employment because there's an opportunity cost to not going out and getting that bread because we make a lot of money out there in the CS field. And in general, I think it's best to learn by doing. Post grad stuff is kind of unnecessary due to the nature of CS. Like, it's a novel field. You don't have to know a lot to be able to go out there and like do real work that matters. Cloud engineering is what I want to do. Cool stuff. Set up the infrastructure for the future. I think it's a way of like abstracting away, stuff that we don't want to have to work with, like server stuff. Some things that are missing. I feel like there should have been a bit more programming involved, like consistently. Like, if there's a few projects in the class over the course of 4 months, I just work on those projects. Like, I would have liked more stuff to program on in between. A lot of that coursework was theory based. Electives are a little different, but electives are, I think the choice was a bit underwhelming. But maybe that's because of the size of the program, and I don't know. The lounge at McBride, we're in the basement of McBride with no windows, and before the renovation, it was a pretty sad place. Maybe it's because we don't need a lot. We just need computers and some servers, and we're good to go. As opposed to the other engineers who need to have labs and shit. Final thoughts. I took a class at ODU. It was like 4,000 level. Man, those people are not learning nearly as much. Like, I felt like I was in like a 2,000 level class. Um, yeah, so kind of show me that we're in a good program. Teriyaki meatballs are the best. Every CS fair I go and I eat probably like 100 of those. Mm, mm, mm.